What in the world? Here's what 99% of retail investors completely miss about XRP accumulation. They're asking the totally wrong question. When people wonder how much XRP is enough, they're trapped in old-school thinking, chasing quick flips like it's some mean coin lottery ticket. But hold up, XRP was never designed for short-term speculation. It was never built for hype cycles. This is about infrastructure, people. You don't approach infrastructure investment with the same mentality you'd use for the latest dog-themed token. Here's the kicker. The real question isn't how much XRP you need to get wealthy overnight. It's how much XRP positions you for the fundamental transformation of global finance. Let that marinate for a second. This isn't about accumulating enough tokens to hit some arbitrary dollar target. It's about securing exposure to the new value transfer rails that are being constructed right under everyone's noses. Because that's exactly what XRP is evolving into quietly but relentlessly. Most folks completely miss this because XRP doesn't behave like your typical hype-driven altcoins. It moves when real infrastructure milestones happen. It pumps when new corridors activate. It surges when central bank pilots launch successfully. And here's where it gets wild. By the time mainstream media covers these developments, smart money has already secured their positions. That's the fundamental misunderstanding plaguing this entire sector. There isn't some magical number that guarantees success. However, there are strategic accumulation ranges where XRP transitions from a speculative gamble into a foundational strategic holding. We'll dissect those tiers shortly, but first, you absolutely must understand the historical patterns that reveal what enough actually meant before previous waves crashed over the market. If you're exhausted by surface-level speculation and want the unfiltered reality behind XRP's trajectory and actual positioning strategies for generational wealth shifts, smash that subscribe button right now. This is the Crypto Talk channel, and you're about to discover insights nobody else is sharing. The 2017 Foundation Story. Let's transport back to 2017, before XRP became a household crypto name, before Ripple dominated financial headlines. During that era when the crypto universe obsessed over mining equipment, technical whitepapers, and ICO madness, XRP was trading at microscopic fractions, literally 0.00678 on January 2, 2017. Think about this: at those prices, a mere $100 investment could have secured over 14,750 XRP tokens. Yet how many actually pulled the trigger? Virtually nobody. Not due to lack of capital, but because they couldn't recognize what was unfolding before them. While everyone else chased Ethereum's ICO boom or Bitcoin's next breakout level, Ripple was methodically constructing the foundation for institutional-grade liquidity networks that banks could genuinely deploy. Buckle up. Behind closed doors, they were establishing partnerships with financial institutions, running extensive pilot programs, building what would eventually become the corridors we now recognize as ODL on-demand liquidity. But retail investors, they completely overlooked it because Ripple wasn't targeting them with flashy marketing campaigns. They weren't pumping price predictions on social media. Instead, they were conducting meetings with central banks and securing comprehensive regulatory frameworks. And that's boring as dirt until suddenly it's not. Then December 2017 arrived. The bull market went absolutely parabolic. XRP rocketed to $3.30, though widely reported as $3.84 due to Korean exchange premiums. That just happened. Early believers who had accumulated 10,000 XRP were suddenly sitting on nearly $40,000 positions. Those holding 50,000 XRP found themselves approaching six-figure valuations, built from just a few $100s of conviction months earlier. But here's the twist: most of them liquidated their positions. Why? Because they fundamentally misunderstood what they owned. They assumed XRP had completed its purpose. They believed the peak was permanent. They had no clue they were holding infrastructure for tomorrow's financial ecosystem, not just another speculative token. The SEC crisis and smart money accumulation. Fast forward to 2020. The SEC slams Ripple with a devastating lawsuit. Markets implode. XRP collapses from 70 cents straight down to 17 cents. Retail investors flee in panic. Major exchanges delist the token. Twitter explodes with "XRP is finished" declarations. But wait, here's where it gets absolutely wild. If you examine the on-chain analytics during that precise timeframe, something remarkable unfolds. Wallets containing between 10,000 and 100,000 XRP tokens actually increased their holdings. Steadily, systematically. While smaller wallets under 1,000 XRP hemorrhaged tokens, middle-tier and upper-mid-tier addresses were accumulating with surgical precision. Quietly, deliberately, while the noise screamed XRP was dead, sophisticated capital recognized unprecedented opportunity. Because here's the pattern that consistently repeats throughout XRP's entire existence. The dips emerge from fear. The surges emerge from infrastructure deployment. Every significant XRP rally has followed concrete real-world utility achievements, not social media posts, not influencer hype, not celebrity endorsements, but measurable deployments, ODL volume explosions, fresh corridors going live, regulatory breakthroughs in crucial jurisdictions, enterprise integrations like Santander's OnePay FX, SBI Remit's Asian corridors, or Trenglo's 25-corridor expansion becoming operational. The 2018 surge preceded RippleNet's expansion across more than 100 financial institutions. The 2021 momentum built on SBI Remit launching XRP-powered remittances throughout Southeast Asia, processing the first Japan-Philippines corridor in under 45 seconds. And here's the kicker. The 2024 rally was fueled by RLUSD stablecoin announcements, partial SEC legal victories, and institutional corridor expansion reaching over 300 partners across 45-plus countries. You have to see this clearly. XRP doesn't front-run speculation, it front-runs actual deployment, which explains why timing accumulation based on Reddit sentiment or YouTube thumbnails represents a losing strategy. The 2023-2024 quiet storm. Let's dive deeper into the 2023-2024 accumulation phenomenon. Now pay close attention. During one of crypto's most uncertain regulatory periods, with Ripple still entangled in partial litigation and broader markets rotating toward AI tokens and memecoins, XRP Wallet Analytics revealed a quiet storm building beneath the surface. Addresses holding 10,000 to 50,000 XRP, steady monthly growth averaging 3,500 new wallets. Addresses containing 50,000 to 100,000 XRP, gradual yet intentional accumulation patterns. Addresses above 100,000 XRP, institutional-grade wallets remained relatively static because they had already established positions. And here's the part that should absolutely shake you. While XRP price action moved sideways, the liquidity flowing through ODL corridors smashed all-time records. Ripple expanded operations to over 70 payout markets covering 90% of global FX flows. Their enterprise clients had evolved beyond testing phases. They were conducting live transactions worth billions. That tells you everything you need to know. Price movements aren't the signal, volume is the signal, utility is the signal, infrastructure deployment is the signal. Ask yourself this: why would someone silently accumulate 50,000 XRP during active litigation? Why would institutional-scale wallets remain positioned while retail investors panicked toward exits? Because they weren't hunting quick 5x returns, they were positioning for global settlement dominance. The institutional infrastructure reality. And this is the part 99% of people completely miss. They assume accumulation means catching the next price wave. It doesn't. It means securing position before the entire system transforms around that position. Before ODL volume gets measured in trillions instead of billions. Before central banks publicly designate XRP among their preferred liquidity bridges. Before custodians package XRP into tokenized FX funds designed for pension-grade institutional clients. So how much XRP is actually enough? 1,000 XRP won't revolutionize your financial situation. It's basic exposure, a foot in the door. But 10,000 XRP, now we're talking. That represents entry-level positioning in what could become a cornerstone asset of next-generation global payment infrastructure. 25,000 XRP puts you in early internet territory, like owning bandwidth capacity before broadband deployment. 50,000 plus XRP, you're not speculating anymore. You're aligning with institutional accumulation patterns that the broader market won't recognize until they're permanently priced out. Because the real game isn't about XRP reaching $5 or $10 targets. It's about XRP becoming indispensable infrastructure. When that transition completes, your holdings don't simply appreciate, they amplify exponentially. You want to understand the real reason XRP hasn't gone parabolic yet. It's not because the project failed. It's not because adoption stalled. It's not because Ripple lost momentum. It's because the institutional floodgates haven't fully opened yet. Despite Ripple's decisive SEC courtroom victory, despite XRP being officially declared non-security for secondary market sales, despite liquidity corridors expanding relentlessly year after year. Institutional capital remains positioned but patient, but only because it had to be. Institutions don't operate on social media hype. They don't invest based on YouTube predictions. They deploy capital when infrastructure is complete, when compliance frameworks are locked, and when liquidity reaches institutional grade. And here's where it gets wild: all those components are now converging, quietly, systematically, relentlessly. Let me break this down. Ripple has invested years constructing the plumbing for global liquidity management. This isn't theoretical speculation. This isn't future promises. It's already operational. ODL on-demand liquidity functions across dozens of active markets. It eliminated pre-funded account requirements. It leverages XRP to transfer value across borders within seconds. Liquidity Hub enables enterprises to access pooled crypto liquidity, including XRP, facilitating payments, settlements, and FX conversions through unified APIs. CBDC infrastructure pilots are running with Palau, Montenegro, Georgia, and Colombia, with active discussions spanning central banks across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. But none of this was performative. The goal was creating an institutional-ready environment, a frictionless ecosystem enabling real capital flows through tokenized rails at unprecedented scale, the institutional players. And now it's finally ready. That's where the institutional moment crystallizes. Look at these names already embedded. Standard Chartered Board Observer seat, co-developing DLT applications across Asia, Africa, and Middle East corridors. SBI Holdings moving over $700 million XRP monthly, operating live remittance corridors throughout Asia. Santander OnePay FX powered by Ripple technology since 2018, enabling instant transfers across Spain, UK, Brazil, and Poland. Tranglo 40% Ripple ownership, enabling ODL across 25-plus corridors with sub-1-minute settlement times. Bank of America quietly confirmed XRP usage for internal transactions, 83 blockchain patents filed. These aren't DeFi experiments or random fintech startups. These are financial titans settling billions daily. And here's the kicker: they're not just exploring RippleNet capabilities, they're operationally integrated. The RLUSD game changer. And now Ripple is launching something that changes everything completely. A fully compliant, enterprise-grade stablecoin constructed directly on the XRP ledger. This isn't another generic USDC or Tether competitor. This is Ripple's final infrastructure piece, backed one by segregated US dollar deposits and treasury bills held at BNY Mellon, audited monthly, regulated under NYDFS oversight, transparent reserve reporting. Designed to function alongside XRP, not replace it. Why does that matter? Because institutions require more than bridge assets. They need complete rails plus liquidity plus compliance plus seamless on-off ramps. RLUSD completes that loop. Now they can bridge between fiat and crypto instantly, settle transactions via XRP, park liquidity in Ripple's regulated stablecoin, execute cross-border transfers within seconds, maintain full compliance under US and international frameworks. And once that integrated system activates, the moment RippleNet corridors merge XRP and RLUSD into closed-loop workflows, XRP stops being a speculative cryptocurrency. It becomes a balancing mechanism, a liquidity token held by clearinghouses, a bridge asset enabling tokenized FX operations, a settlement layer connecting digital assets with traditional fiat systems. That's the transformation from crypto toy to financial infrastructure. The price recalibration coming. And here's what happens next. Mark this down. Once Ripple's complete liquidity stack goes live across institutional corridors, XRP pricing won't rise gradually through normal market dynamics. It'll be fundamentally recalibrated based on enterprise usage volumes, corridor demand requirements, and institutional market-making obligations. You're no longer participating in speculative sandbox trading. You're entering institutional capital territory. And that's a completely different universe. Let's talk numbers. Currently, 1,000 XRP represents approximately a $3,500 position at today's prices. That's exposure, but won't transform your net worth. Now think about 10,000 XRP. That's roughly a $35,000 position at current levels. If XRP reaches just $5, Ripple's conservative valuation based purely on corridor demand and institutional flows, you're looking at $50,000. That's not moonshot fantasy. That's low-end institutional targeting based on measurable utility metrics. Now push further. If XRP captures even a modest fraction of the $150 trillion annual global cross-border payments market, we're not discussing $5 price targets. We're discussing XRP becoming required settlement liquidity programmed into smart contract stacks, parked within central bank digital currency reserves. At that deployment scale, 10,000 XRP isn't a crypto investment. It's equity in global monetary infrastructure. The pre versus post-deployment reality. But here's the hard truth. You won't be able to acquire XRP cheaply at that point, because once Ripple's stablecoin infrastructure is fully operational, once custodians offer wrapped XRP to institutional clients, once ODL corridors upgrade with complete regulatory-compliant workflows, you're not purchasing from retail markets anymore. You're buying from market makers, OTC desks, custodians who aren't motivated to sell. You'll pay utility premiums for infrastructure you could have secured at speculative prices. That's the fundamental difference between pre-deployment XRP and post-deployment XRP. Smart money recognizes this transition. That's why wallets in the 10K, 100K XRP range have grown steadily, especially during regulatory uncertainty. Institutions and insiders were never betting on short-term price movements. They were betting on infrastructure alignment. The strategic tiers. So how do you plan your holdings? Let me break down the practical accumulation tiers every serious investor should understand. Tier 1, 1,000 XRP entry level at current prices around $3.50. This represents roughly $3,500. If XRP hits $5, that becomes $5,000. This is minimum exposure if you want basic positioning. Tier 2, 5,000 XRP, early positioning around $17,500 at today's levels. If XRP plays a significant role in future liquidity networks, this becomes a substantial mid-five-figure position at conservative targets. Tier 3, 10,000 XRP foundation stack. This tier mirrors what early whales accumulated in 2017, currently about $35,000. If XRP reaches $10, you're approaching six-figure territory. More importantly, this provides meaningful exposure to network upside. Tier 4, 25,000 XRP institutional alignment. This level mirrors wallets that accumulated during the lawsuit period, around $87,500 currently. If XRP becomes the neutral bridge for global settlements, you're positioned for life-changing returns. Tier 5, 50,000 plus XRP strategic capital. This transitions you from investor to ecosystem stakeholder. Sufficient holdings to become relevant for governance, enterprise experimentation, and future staking implementations. Think $175,000 plus now, with upside extending into seven figures as adoption scales. The closing window. But none of this matters if you wait too long, because once the new liquidity architecture activates and institutions flip the operational switch, you're no longer purchasing from open markets. You're buying from custodians, OTC desks, entities that don't need to liquidate positions. So here's the real truth: how much XRP do you need is the wrong question entirely. The right question is, how much XRP will you wish you had when the world's financial system operates on tokenized rails, and XRP is the oil keeping it flowing? Your decision window is closing rapidly. This is it. You don't get to reposition once everything goes live. You don't get to accumulate when it's trending on mainstream financial networks. The XRP accumulation opportunity is quiet, it's technical, and it's happening right now. Choose your tier and stack accordingly, because by the time you fully comprehend XRP's role in the emerging financial system, the positioning window may have permanently closed. If this revelation hit you like it should have, if you finally see what XRP is genuinely becoming beyond the speculation, make sure you're subscribed to this channel for more infrastructure-level analysis that cuts through the noise. Crush that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and let's position ourselves ahead of the next financial revolution together. Because when the rails light up and the world realizes what we've been building toward, you'll want to already be holding your seat at the table. The future doesn't wait, and neither should your XRP stack.